Let the races begin. It's the final few weeks of legislative session at the Illinois State House this Tuesday, May 13th. I'm Greg Bishop with Illinois in Focus Daily, and we're going to be on the ground today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. They're in session. They're in session Tuesday through Friday next week, and in session all the following week as well after Memorial Day. So it's going to be a pretty busy time here over the next few weeks. It's why it's important for you to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell here on YouTube to wake up with us each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus Daily. We, of course, look at what's going on at the State House. A lot of activity with legislative session going on. We're eyeing what the budget's going to look like. Obviously, it's going to be the largest state spending plan of your tax dollars in state history at like $55 billion or so. What's that going to include? You've got conversations about the health care subsidies for non-citizens in Illinois, something that's already cost taxpayers more than $1.6 billion with cost overruns. The governor wants to, modify that slightly to end the health benefits for immigrant adult program. So we'll be seeing if that actually happens or if it goes further. But tons of things on the docket there. We'll talk a little bit about other big asks, and in particular, higher education, how much tax dollars go to higher ed, and a proposal to essentially have a similar type of funding model as the K through 12 funding model. So we'll give some background on that, but also state legislators trying to get answers from the toll authority as to what happened with a contract where they hired the wrong contractor and then had to bring somebody else back on. All of it inflating the cost of a contract for some toll work. So we'll talk about that as well. But we've also got a couple of things firearms related we got to tackle here, including the latest filing in the Barnett case in the appeals court. That's the gun ban challenge, an amicus brief. We'll review some of that here with Illinois in Focus Daily. So again, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, wake up with us each and every weekday morning here. But don't forget, you can also get the newsletter at thecentersquare.com. It's real simple. You just go to the website, you click on newsletter here, and up in the right-hand corner, enter your email, and we'll get you that breaking news and headlines and all of that in your inbox each and every weekday morning here with The Center Square. Filings continue in the challenge against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Good morning, it's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, and we're here each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus. Get the podcast where you get podcasts to catch the entire show. But don't forget, you can also join us live in the chat room with a lively bunch each and every weekday morning here on YouTube, so check that out. All right, so we've been tracking the state's gun ban since it was enacted January of 23. Shortly thereafter, lawsuits in the state court and in federal court were filed. The state court lawsuits resulted in thousands of restraining orders against the state from enacting the law on individuals and gun stores, but ultimately all of that went away after the challenge went all the way to the Illinois Supreme Court, and we can all remember that saga. But what has legs and continues on is the challenge in federal court, in particular out of the Southern District of Illinois, where 4 plaintiffs groups joined together by Judge Steve McGlynn, heard a 4-day bench trial on the merits and produced a record. Ultimately, the district judge deciding that the state law banning certain semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacity was unconstitutional. But he put a stay on his order pending appeal. The state did appeal. The appeals courts continued a stay on McGlynn's order that it's unconstitutional and a permanent injunction against the law. So again, the law is still in effect. And I did see an interesting share on X because Dana Lash shared a story about one of the measures we've been tracking, Senate Bill 8, and how that is advancing at the State House, and that's the safe gun storage bill. But somebody asked Grok, that's X's artificial intelligence. Let me just pull this up can you explain the state of Illinois like a 5-year-old why this is unconstitutional? And it was about, locking up firearms. Grok, again, AI, artificial intelligence from X, says, hey, imagine the Constitution like a rule book for the country. One rule, called the Second Amendment, says people can have guns to protect themselves. Illinois made a law saying some guns and big bullet holders aren't allowed. The judge said this law breaks the rules because those guns are used by lots of people for safety, but others say the law keeps everyone safer by stopping dangerous guns. Courts are still arguing, so the law is still on while they figure it out. It's like when grown-ups disagree on what's fair. So always fascinating to see what artificial intelligence can do to explain things like you're a 5-year-old. But regardless, the case continues. As we saw last week, the state had to file their brief responding to the district judge saying that it was unconstitutional. And we found that the state said, unprecedented societal concerns, new technology for these firearms, allowing for rapid firing and the expanded magazines, large capacity magazines, as the state calls them, allow for all of this. So that was the chief kind of, also 50 cals and expanded magazines aren't arms, they're accoutrements, the state argues. But we have a brief, what's considered an amicus brief that was filed yesterday. And this is a friend of the court. That's essentially what amicus means. And it's from March for Our Lives. Let's go ahead and pull this up so we can just kind of see what they're going after. So the brief was filed yesterday in federal court. Got all of the stuff saying, hey, this is an amicus brief and these are the attorneys. And we'll go through the table of contents. I'm not going to read all 34 pages here, but they ultimately say the covered weapons are not arms for purposes of the Second Amendment. Like M16 machine guns, the covered weapons are not arms under the 2A. The legislature reasonably disagreed with impartial distinctions between M16s and covered weapons identified by the district court. The district court misapplied this court's precedent to conclude that the covered weapons are in common use and therefore are not military grade. And that's what I think is important to note here. This record that was set by the district court, 4 days worth of experts, former military, trainers, even gunsmiths, and technicians talking about metallurgy and the difference between, semi-automatic and full auto and burst, and the use of full auto and burst in the military and the different types of firearms that the military has and contracts to get. They don't get semi-automatic firearms. They get the military grade firearms. So this record really lays it out because the appeals court on preliminary grounds in 2023, they ultimately said that, they feel that there's a too close of a relationship between military grade firearms and the semi-automatic firearms that were banned by the Protect Illinois Communities Act, the gun and magazine ban. So that's why the district court on the merits, after preliminary issues were dealt with by the appeals court, it went back to the district court, and on the merits, the district court addressed and had the litigants lay out their experts to discuss the difference between military and civilian firearms. So that's really, I think, at least my understanding of the appeals court on preliminary grounds, their position, and how the district court addressed that. But let's go back to the contents here from March for Our Lives in their amicus brief. So they said that the district court misapplied the appeals court's precedent to conclude that the covered weapons are in common use and therefore not military grade. The district court's conclusion that the covered weapons are dual use weapons under Bevis was legal error. They say even if the covered weapons are arms under the Second Amendment, the Protect Illinois Communities Act is constitutional because it is consistent with the history and tradition of firearms regulation legislation in this country. They say that it satisfies Bruin's how requirements, Bruin's why requirements, and they say that the district court erred in holding the Protect Illinois Communities Act is not relevantly similar to the country's history and tradition of firearms regulations. And then you can see there it goes through 10 pages of the Highland Park July 4th, 2022 mass shooting, which we just had resolution there from the guilty party, Robert Crimo III, ultimately changing his plea, going guilty, and getting a sentence. So that's the latest in the Barnett case. Obviously, the plaintiffs are going to respond to the state early next month. We'll get that brief, and then the state will have a time to reply there, and then we should get some kind of oral argument date for the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. So that's the latest twists and turns in that particular case. But something else firearms related. Late last week, there was a conversation about a measure at the State House that's already passed the Senate, and this would ultimately impact explosives and permitting and also consumer fireworks. At least that's what it's listed as. So let's go check this out. Senate Bill 2431. This passed the Senate. It's now in the House, and it's on second reading. Takes 3 readings in each chamber. So it passed the Senate. Let's see here. Going through the status of the bill. Last month, April 9th, passed 39-16. All right, and that is with Senate Floor Amendment number 2. Looks like that's the only one that went through. So then you go back up here and you look at the synopsis, and it talks about it amends the Illinois Explosives Act, makes changes to defined terms, provides that no person shall acquire, possess, use, transfer, or dispose of explosive materials unless the person has obtained a valid Illinois individual explosives license issued by the Department of Natural Resources, except as provided in the Act. In provisions concerning qualifications for licensure, provides that no person shall qualify to hold a license who is an unlawful user or addicted to alcohol or any controlled substance, or has been adjudicated a person with mental disability as defined by the Firearms Owners Identification Card Act, or the person's FOID card is suspended or revoked. Provides that upon receipt of a second revocation of an explosives license, the person shall no longer be eligible to apply for an Illinois individual explosives license. So essentially it sets up an explosives license. And we look at Senate Floor Amendment 2, which passed. It says removes language providing that no person may possess or store a firework cake designed for consumer use that exceeds 500 grams in total explosive commercial composition. So there was a House amendment filed on this. Looks like House Amendment 1 was adopted. So this is going to, come back up on the House floor as amended, and it'll have to go back to the Senate for concurrence. So you understand how that works, right? Have to get out the old Schoolhouse Rocks, I'm just a bill. But House Amendment 1 replaces everything after the clause, and it reinserts different provisions of the engrossed bill. But here's a little bit back and forth in the House Judiciary Committee last week with State Representative Patrick Windhorst asking questions about what's in particular impacting the FOID card aspect of all of this.
It looks like it adds under Section 2005, A5 is an unlawful user of or addicted to, we add alcohol to, or any controlled substance. And then 6 has been adjudicated a person with a mental disability as defined under Section 1.1 of the Firearm Owners Identification Act, or the person's FOID card is suspended or revoked. And the question I had was, I guess first with regard to alcohol, why that was added, if that has been an issue that has occurred. And then number 2, the FOID card change.
And then you have the Department of Natural Resources attorney, Amy Oakes, explaining some of the aspects of why they added that language in there.
Those things are consistent with the federal laws that we also operate our program under.
And there is no federal FOID card requirement. So the part about the FOID card, why was that added?
That was added for consistency with the FOID regulations, as the two go hand in hand. If a FOID card is revoked, there's a notification that goes out to a explosives license holder that puts a hold on their ability to apply for that license while that void card revocation is pending.
So just a little bit more explanation there of what this is. Here's the sponsor in the House, Jay Hoffman, Democrat from Swansea, saying what the real purpose of this measure is and why they need to get this across the finish line.
What this does is it clarifies many of the provisions of the act. It also ensures that the provisions regarding proper storage, proper transportation are followed, and clears up some of misconceptions regarding the act. There had been some questions about what does this apply to. These explosives can be used for demolition, they can be used for mining or many other purposes. However, they are very dangerous, and individuals are licensed in order to be able to not only store them, but to utilize them and to transport them.
So just again, this is, the legislative process at work here. And that's just one particular bill that, involves possible changes to or updates wrapping other laws into the FOID Card Act. So watching that closely, watching Senate Bill 8 closely. Senate Bill 8 still in the House Gun Violence Prevention Committee. They meet today. It's going to be a busy day today. This is our team with Blue Room Stream. Just some of the events that we're live streaming. Now, Blue Room Stream is a subscription service. It's a lot of work involved in getting these live feeds out, and that's kind of some of the video you see here on the air with Illinois in Focus Daily. But we're going to be busy today. There's no question. So if you look, you've got just gobs of news conferences, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules meeting, and so on. But you also have the House Gun Violence Prevention Committee with House Joint Resolution 26. What is House Joint Resolution 26? Let's go to ilga.gov, House Joint Resolution 26. Let's see if we can pull this up. End Gun Violence Task Force. So they want to create the End Gun Violence in Disproportionately Impacted Areas Task Force to study, analyze data, make recommendations, develop policy proposals. There's an amendment, deletes everything and reinserts, just makes it the End Gun Violence in Disproportionately Impacted Areas Task Force, makes it the director of the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity an ex officio non-voting advisory member. So they would investigate gun violence in certain areas. So that's going to be discussed in the House Gun Violence Prevention Committee. Curious, though, if they may also bring up Senate Bill 8 or when that is going to advance out of committee before it gets voted on in the House. We'll be watching all of this. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning as we break down the news impacting you here in the land of Lincoln. I'm Greg Bishop, and you can catch this show live or you can get the podcast. Just search Illinois in Focus Daily. As state legislators return to the Capitol today, you've got a big question of what exactly is the budget going to look like, and other big questions about, well, big ticket items like pensions. That's one thing I got to follow up on. Where are we at with the changes for Tier 2 that they've been discussing for a while? I'll have to get to the latest on that because that's a big ticket item. You've got other big ticket items like the transit cliff. $700+ million expected of a financial cliff for 2026. What's going to happen with the RTA and the CTA and Metra and PACE? All of this while you've got concerns of bloated contracts because of internal errors with the toll authority. So we'll talk about that as well. But you've also got the non-citizen healthcare subsidies. Is that going to be cut as the governor proposed, or are the advocates for non-citizens getting health subsidies, are their voices going to be loud enough to spur on some tax increases to pay for that? Obviously, all these things coming to a head here soon. But another big thing that was talked about recently, higher education funding. Now, some background. Back in 2017, during the Rauner administration, I remember covering this, there was a big agreement about how there needed to be a change to the K-12 school funding formula to make it a, quote, evidence-based funding formula. And it would be $350 million extra each year added to K-12 spending $350 million each year added to K through 12 spending. And the money would be set with a funding formula to give it to disproportionately impacted areas, or areas that need to get up to an adequacy level that the state determines. So that's through K through 12 funding. Since then, I mean, gosh, what, $350 million for the past 8 years? I mean, that adds up. That's several billions of dollars that have been added to K through 12. Well, there's a push now to have a similar type of funding model for the state's higher education institutions. And this obviously is something that is still in the conversation phase, but we've got 2 weeks here. Is it possibly going to pop and actually come across the finish line? It's something that, I've seen happen with other controversial measures, other big ticket items. So the funding proposal for changing how higher ed is funded, it is getting some pushback. So here's the story at thecentersquare.com. Funding proposal for higher ed meeting opposition. It is Senate Bill 13 from State Senator Kimberly Lightford. She was recently at a Senate Executive Committee talking about this measure and what it would do, and how they had a committee come together to investigate higher ed funding and what possible avenues there are to address that.
One that is based on understanding what each university needs to fulfill its unique mission and students' population, how far they each are from having the resources they need, and then laying out a multi-year plan to get all institutions to full funding, ensuring that new dollars go more aggressively to the universities that are furthest from adequacy. We did this exactly the same with evidence-based funding for K through 12. Last spring, the commission published its report outlining the structure for an adequate, sustainable funding system. The report garnered national attention, but we knew we had more work to do. Rep. Ammons and I brought together all interested stakeholders, including every university, asked each to flag issues that merited further discussion or
So Lightford, discussed further about the process. They came together to have Senate Bill 13, which would add about $2 billion in new funding over the next decade to higher education, but it would do it in a way that this commission feels is more, equitable or so. Nick Jones, Vice President of Academic Affairs for the University of Illinois System, said that a tiered, mission-aligned approach to funding would be more ideal. He said that this approach would ensure that funding supports student outcomes, holds institutions accountable for results, and drives true equitable distribution of the state's investments in higher education. So there's some pushback there from the University of Illinois System. State Representative C.D. Davidsmeyer, he recently said during an unrelated news conference that he doesn't buy that more money is going to fix the problems with higher education.
And I will say, we've been putting more and more and more and more money into K through 12 education, and we're getting worse and worse and worse outcomes. I think by the government stuffing more money into higher education right now, I think we're encouraging costs to go up. And until we make higher education, college education, affordable for students throughout the state of Illinois, we shouldn't be giving them any more money. We have to figure out how to get that tuition down and how to get Illinois students into Illinois schools. And so the reality is between K through 12 and higher education, you're looking at $500 million extra a year in growth. So you're looking at $500 million just on the education side. I look at education as an investment, and I think we all do, but we have to make sure that we're getting the outcomes that we're paying for, and right now I don't think we are.
So again, it goes to the question of, are the tax dollars that are being freed up for these organizations actually resulting in benefit for the taxpayer, benefit for the economy, benefit for the students? again, big ticket items here we're talking about, right? Another big ticket item is obviously transit. We touched on that briefly, that they face, a $770 million fiscal cliff, and you've got some that are wanting to consolidate these transit agencies before the state's taxpayers bail out the transit agencies. Push back against that idea, saying that some of the suburban areas might not have as large of a voice as they have now with their own individual transit agencies. The measure, it's still being talked about, has yet to advance, but are they going to be able to bring about reforms for the transit agencies while also letting up, giving some hundreds of millions of dollars to these organizations of your tax dollars out of the state budget? But then you get into the likes of the toll authority, the tollway authority. And recently the Daily Herald reported on a contract that, some internal errors came to light. Here is State Representative Tom Weber on the House floor Friday last week talking about this particular story and how frustrated he is that there really isn't many clear answers from the Illinois Tollway Authority.
So I'd like to make the chamber aware, today I was all geared up to do a speech, which you've probably heard me do before, on property tax in the state of Illinois, where we have 27 of our counties that are in the top 50 of the nation in highest property taxes. And property taxes per household being led by Lake County, Illinois, with an average per house $10,370 per household in property taxes. However, I opened up and read an article in the Daily Herald in regards to the I-290, 88, 294 interchange, which many of us drive through on the way down here to Springfield. So if you're unaware that the Tollway Authority awarded the contract for $323.9 million to a contractor. After they began work, they realized that they awarded it to the wrong contractor. They told them that it pulled them off the job. They were awarded in court $15 million work performed and $10 million in damages. The new contractor came in who, because of our 4% Illinois preference law, that was the mistake that was made, came in at $327 million, a $3.1 million higher bid, but with the 4%, they should have been originally the initial winner of the bid. On top of that, because we want to keep the same July 2027 deadline, they were also given $16.5 million for overtime. When you add this mistake of awarding the wrong contractor the contract, pulling them off and putting someone else in, the total adds up to $44.6 million more than the initial contract. So I don't know about you, but $44.6 million more than the initial contract is something that everyone in this chamber should be aware of. That is on the back of taxpayers. And I would hope that the Tollway Authority or the director or someone, I would invite them to please come to Transportation Committee and explain exactly how taxpayers just got a bill for $44.6 million more than the initial contract.
It's, again, State Representative Tom Weber raising issue about that. And if you go and check out thecentersquare.com, you'll see the statements provided by the Illinois State's Toll Highway Authority, and they said that the work performed by the initial contractor included about $15 million for construction already performed, which the agency would have been required to pay even if the contract had been retained. The total amounts of additional costs paid by the tollway regarding this contract amounts to nearly $27 million. Again, dollars and cents. Every penny counts. When you're putting your budget together, every penny counts. All right, we'll be on the ground watching all of this unfold. We got a couple of weeks left before the end of session. May 31st is that deadline. Could they get the budget done before then? They're going to work out all these problems with the Tollway Authority? I don't know, but stay tuned. It's Illinois in Focus Daily right here with the Center Square. right, that's all I got for you today, guys. We're going to have a ton to tackle tomorrow. As I told you, with our team over at Blue Room Stream, I'm just looking through here. We got several Illinois Supreme Court cases happening, Legislative Audit Commission going on, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. You got Republicans wanting to talk about DOGE. You've got electric vehicles, part of a news conference, a floor action, press conference about after-school programs, Gun Violence Prevention Committee, other legislation being discussed, energy going to be the focus of another news conference later on. So again, it's going to be a busy day today. Wake up with us tomorrow and we'll unpack just some of it as we continue on with Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great, it's Tuesday, right? It's Tuesday. We'll see you soon. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock sharp, right here with the Center Square.